The emergency klaxons echoed through the crystalline halls of Nexus Prime as representatives from 47 civilized species materialized in their designated chambers. High Chancellor Zixithara's 4 eyes darted nervously across the holographic displays floating before the assembly, each screen showing grainy footage of bipedal creatures engaged in what could only be described as organized slaughter. Honored delegates. Zixithara's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress among her kind. We face an unprecedented threat to galactic stability. 3 cycles ago, we catalogued a species on the 3rd planet of the Sol system. Classification: primitive, but promising. Technological development consistent with early spacefaring civilizations. We were wrong. Dr. Kethmol, the Council's lead xenobiologist, stepped forward on his 6 legs, his scaled hide shifting from blue to alarmed orange. The species calls itself humanity. Initial observations suggested standard evolutionary development. Tool: users, basic agriculture, rudimentary space exploration, standard uplift candidates. His color deepened to crimson. We failed to examine their historical data archives thoroughly. The holographic displays shifted, showing massive formations of humans wielding primitive weapons, their faces twisted in expressions of fury and determination. These images span 6,000 years of documented warfare. The humans have been perfecting the art of organized violence since before most of our species achieved sentience. They fight not just for resources or territory, but for concepts we struggle to comprehend: honor, ideology, the right to practice specific rituals. Ambassador Velnara of the Peaceful Hegemony, her crystalline form resonating with harmonic distress, spoke through carefully modulated sound waves. Surely this is exaggeration. Our analysis of their entertainment media suggested these depictions were fantasy, impossible scenarios designed for primitive emotional stimulation. Dr. Kethmol's hide flickered to deep purple. That's what we thought. Further investigation revealed that their entertainment is actually sanitized versions of their actual history. They've developed weapons capable of rendering their entire planet uninhabitable, yet they continue to exist because they've imposed artificial limitations on their own destructive capacity. They call these rules of war. The assembly fell silent, except for the nervous chittering of the Hive Collective's representative. Zixithara continued, her voice carrying the weight of impending doom. In the past solar cycle, humans have expanded into 3 neighboring systems. Initial contact protocols were disturbing. They didn't request permission or announce their intentions. They simply arrived, established colonies, and began what they term peaceful exploration. But the truly terrifying aspect, Dr. Kethmol's hide now pulsed with warning patterns, is their psychological profiles. Humans form emotional bonds, not just with their genetic relatives, but with complete strangers. They will sacrifice themselves for individuals they've known for mere moments. They've documented cases of humans adopting the offspring of other species and treating them as their own children. This pack-bonding instinct extends to their military operations. The displays shifted again, showing recent footage from the Terran colonies. Humans working alongside various alien species, laughing together, sharing meals, teaching their children. They're not conquerors in any traditional sense, Zixithara observed. They're collectors. They encounter other species and somehow convince them to join their cause willingly. 3 minor civilizations have already requested human military advisors. The Kithara border dispute, which has raged for 2 centuries, was resolved in 18 standard hours after human negotiators arrived. How? Ambassador Velnara's harmonic resonance cracked with disbelief. The humans offered to demonstrate their conflict resolution methods, Dr. Kethmol replied. Both sides immediately agreed to peaceful negotiations rather than see what human conflict resolution entailed. The humans never actually threatened anyone. They simply existed in the same space, and everyone suddenly became very interested in compromise. The most disturbing revelation came from the intelligence division. We've detected no evidence of human military exercises or weapons testing in their new colonies, reported Chief Analyst Thisakara. They appear to be focused entirely on agriculture, education, and infrastructure development. Either they're the most peaceful species we've ever encountered, or they're so confident in their abilities that they see no need to demonstrate them. The silence stretched until Zixithara spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. The humans have never shown us their true capabilities. Everything we've seen suggests they're operating at perhaps 10% of their potential. They're not trying to terrify us. They're trying to be nice. And somehow, that was the most frightening revelation of all. Dr. Veltaran's reptilian scales shifted from deep green to warning yellow as he accessed the biological assessment files. If I may continue the briefing, honored delegates, the physical analysis presents even more disturbing findings. His forked tongue tasted the air nervously. We must understand what evolutionary pressures created this species. The holographic displays transformed, showing anatomical breakdowns of human physiology alongside comparative data from known galactic species. Humans evolved as what they term persistence predators. While most sentient species in our galaxy developed intelligence as prey animals seeking to avoid predation, humans developed intelligence to become more efficient hunters. A collective shudder ran through the assembly as images of ancient Earth megafauna appeared alongside primitive humans. Their ancestors literally ran their prey to death. Massive creatures weighing several tons would be pursued by small groups of humans across hundreds of kilometers until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. The humans would then calmly finish the kill. Representative Coxthara of the Shellbearer Confederation clicked his protective carapace nervously. Surely their evolutionary path has made them unsuitable for modern warfare. Persistence hunting is irrelevant against energy weapons and spacecraft. Dr. Veltaran's scales darkened to an ominous black. That's where you're wrong. Every aspect of human physiology is optimized for sustained combat effectiveness. Their bipedal locomotion isn't just for long-distance travel. It frees their manipulator appendages for tool use while moving. They can literally fight while running at speeds. That would exhaust most of us. The data streams showed comparative analysis that made several delegates gasp. Human bone density is 40% greater than the galactic average. Their muscle fiber composition allows both explosive power and endurance far exceeding normal biological parameters. Most remarkably, they possess redundant organ systems. Humans can survive with 50% of their blood volume lost, function with one lung, one kidney, and even portions of their brain damaged. But perhaps most unsettling, Dr. Veltaran continued, his scales now pulsing with agitated patterns, is their neurological architecture. Human brains contain a structure called the amygdala that processes threat assessment faster than conscious thought. They can identify and respond to danger in milliseconds. Combined with their binocular vision and exceptional depth perception, they can track multiple moving targets simultaneously while coordinating complex motor responses. The medical data revealed even more disturbing truths. Humans possess a chemical cocktail they call adrenaline that overrides pain receptors and dramatically increases physical performance during stress. We've documented cases of humans continuing to fight effectively while suffering injuries that would incapacitate any known species. There are reports of humans lifting objects weighing 3 times their body mass during emergencies. Ambassador Thisara's crystalline form flickered with disbelief. This seems impossible. How do they function socially with such aggressive biological programming? That's the truly terrifying aspect, Dr. Veltaran replied. Human social bonding actually enhances their combat effectiveness. They form what they call pack bonds with non-relatives, creating tactical units that fight more effectively together than individually. Their brain chemistry rewards them for protecting these bonded individuals, making them more dangerous when defending others than when defending themselves. The psychological profiles painted an even darker picture. Humans regularly engage in activities they term sports and games that are essentially combat training disguised as entertainment. Children as young as 5 years are taught coordinated team tactics through these activities. Their educational systems include mandatory physical training that would qualify as military conditioning for most species. Furthermore, Dr. Veltaran's scales shifted to deep purple. Humans demonstrate pattern recognition abilities that border on precognitive. They can anticipate complex sequences of events and adapt their strategies in real time. This isn't just intelligence. It's tactical intuition developed over millions of years of successful predation. The most chilling revelation came from the technology integration studies. Human brains demonstrate unprecedented plasticity when interfacing with weapon systems. They can learn to operate complex military equipment in hours rather than the standard weeks required by other species. Reports from the outer colonies indicate humans have been reverse engineering our technology and improving upon it within days of first contact. Chief Medical Officer Zenthala spoke for the first time, her voice trembling. We've been asking the wrong question. It's not whether humans are dangerous warriors. The question is, what happens when a species this perfectly designed for warfare decides to go to war? The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembly like a shroud. Ambassador Thisakara of the Crystalline Dominion resonated at frequencies indicating extreme distress as she began the tactical assessment. Honored delegates, if the biological analysis wasn't sufficiently alarming, our military observations paint an even darker picture. We've been monitoring human conflict resolution methods across 17 different scenarios. The results challenge everything we understand about civilized warfare. The holographic displays shifted to show various conflict zones where humans had recently intervened. Standard galactic military doctrine emphasizes honorable combat between matched forces using established protocols. Humans reject these concepts entirely. They employ what they term asymmetric warfare, deliberately fighting unfairly to maximize their advantages while exploiting enemy weaknesses. Defense Coordinator Vexthal's carapace segments clicked rapidly in agitation. The Kepler sector dispute involved 2 evenly matched fleets, each following proper engagement protocols. When human advisors arrived, the conflict ended in 6 hours. The humans didn't engage either fleet directly. Instead, they targeted supply lines, communication, networks, and resource extraction facilities simultaneously across 12 systems. But that violates the warfare accords, protested Representative Kilandra. Civilian infrastructure is protected under galactic law. Humans don't recognize the distinction between military and civilian targets during warfare, Thisakara explained, her crystalline form flickering with alarm patterns. They view war as a total societal effort. Every factory producing military supplies, every communication relay coordinating enemy forces, every transport vessel carrying resources, all are legitimate targets in human tactical doctrine. The displays showed tactical analysis that made several delegates recoil. Humans excel at what they call force multiplication. Rather than deploying overwhelming numbers, they use combined arms tactics that make small units devastatingly effective. They coordinate ground forces, aerospace assets, electronic warfare, and psychological operations simultaneously. Most species can barely manage one military branch effectively. Intelligence. Chief Mortaka's tentacles writhed anxiously as he presented the strategic analysis. Human military planning operates on multiple temporal scales simultaneously. They prepare for immediate tactical responses, medium-term operational objectives, and long-term strategic goals within the same framework. We've intercepted human military communications discussing contingency plans spanning decades. More disturbing is their adaptability, Thisakara continued. When humans encounter superior technology or tactics, they don't retreat to develop countermeasures. They adapt in real time during active combat. We've documented cases of human units changing their entire tactical approach mid-battle based on enemy responses, then teaching these new methods to allied forces within hours. The psychological warfare capabilities proved most unsettling. Humans understand that defeating an enemy's will to fight is more efficient than destroying their capacity to fight, Mortaka explained. They use propaganda, misinformation, and what they term terror tactics to break enemy morale before physical combat begins. The mere reputation of human involvement often causes opposing forces to surrender without engagement. Field Marshal Kethvara's battle-scarred hide shifted to warning colors as she shared frontline observations. Human unit cohesion defies all known military science. Standard doctrine suggests combat effectiveness decreases as casualties mount. Human units become more dangerous as they take losses. We've observed human squads continuing coordinated attacks after sustaining 70% casualties. They possess a concept called acceptable losses, she continued, her voice filled with professional horror. Humans will sacrifice entire units to achieve strategic objectives, and the units volunteer for these missions willingly. They calculate casualty ratios with the same detachment other species use for resource allocation. The technological integration. Reports revealed humanity's most frightening capability. Humans don't just use weapons. They improve them constantly, reported Chief Engineer Daxthon. We've provided standard galactic small arms to human allies. Within weeks, they've modified these weapons to be 30% more lethal and 40% more reliable. They seem to instinctively understand how to make everything more dangerous, but perhaps most terrifying, Thisakara concluded, is their tactical flexibility. Humans can coordinate with any species, adapt to any environment, and improvise solutions using whatever resources are available. They've taken agricultural equipment and turned it into siege weapons. They've used mining explosives for orbital bombardment. They look at every object and ask, "How can this kill my enemies?" The assembled delegates sat in stunned silence as the full scope of human military capability became clear. These weren't just warriors, they were tactical innovators whose very approach to conflict rendered traditional military doctrine obsolete. The question, Thesakara said quietly, is no longer whether we can contain them. The question is whether we should be grateful they're on our side. High Chancellor Zixathara's mandibles clicked in a rhythm indicating deep contemplation as she addressed the final phase of their crisis assessment. Honored delegates, we've attempted every standard protocol for managing emerging threats: military containment, diplomatic isolation, economic sanctions, even covert operations. All have failed spectacularly. Defense Coordinator Vexthul's carapace segments rattled with barely contained panic. The Hegemony Coalition attempted to establish a blockade around human space. 3 days later, human representatives appeared in our capital systems offering trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. They bypassed our military cordon as if it didn't exist. When questioned about their methods, they simply said they took the scenic route. The intelligence reports painted a picture of systematic failure. Every species that has attempted to oppose human expansion has found themselves facing not conquest but integration, reported Chief Analyst Mortaka. The Vorthan Empire declared humans a threat to galactic stability. Within 2 months, 17 Vorthan colonies had requested human military advisors to resolve internal conflicts. The Empire's own citizens were undermining their government's policies. Ambassador Velnara's crystalline form pulsed with confused harmonics. How do they achieve such rapid diplomatic success? Our negotiators train for decades to achieve basic interspecies communication. Humans study us, Zixthara replied grimly. While we've been analyzing their military capabilities, they've been analyzing our psychology, our social structures, our economic systems, our cultural values. They understand us better than we understand ourselves. Every human diplomatic mission includes xenobiologists, anthropologists, and what they call cultural specialists. The revelation that human expansion was actually intelligence gathering sent shockwaves through the assembly. Their cultural exchange programs are comprehensive data collection operations, Mortaka continued. They learn our languages, study our histories, identify our social pressure points, then use this knowledge to position themselves as indispensable allies rather than conquerors. Strategic advisor Kenthara's voice carried the weight of inevitable defeat. We've identified 43 minor civilizations now under de facto human protection. These species weren't conquered, they requested human assistance. The humans provided military training, technological upgrades, and conflict resolution services. In exchange, they've gained access to strategic resources, forward operating bases, and intelligence networks spanning half the galaxy. But here's what terrifies our military strategists, Defense Coordinator Vexthul added, his voice trembling. Human-trained forces are exponentially more effective than they were independently. The Zephyrian Defense Corps couldn't protect a single colony from raiders 6 months ago. After human training, they've pacified 3 entire sectors and are requesting permission to assist neighboring systems. The economic implications proved equally staggering. Human trade policies are revolutionizing galactic commerce, reported economic analyst Thysmall. They've introduced concepts like mutual defense agreements and economic interdependence that make warfare economically impossible between allied systems. Species that have been enemies for centuries are now trading partners because human advisors convince them that cooperation is more profitable than conflict. Chief Security Officer Daxvara delivered the most sobering assessment. We must face the truth. Humans aren't building an empire, they're building a coalition. Every species they encounter becomes stronger, more prosperous, and more secure. They're solving problems we've struggled with for millennia, and they're doing it by teaching others to solve problems for themselves. The chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed this information. Finally, Ambassador Velnara spoke, her harmonic resonance carrying notes of reluctant admiration. Are we witnessing conquest or evolution? Both, Zixthara replied. Humans are transforming the galaxy not through force, but through competence. They're so effective at warfare that nobody wants to fight them, and so effective at peace that everyone wants to work with them. The final vote was unanimous. Rather than resist human expansion, the Galactic Council would formally request human membership and military consultation. The galaxy's most terrifying warrior species had become its most essential peacekeepers, not through conquest, but through the simple demonstration that their way worked better than everyone else's. As the session concluded, one thought echoed through every delegate's mind. The humans had won a galactic war without firing a single shot.